Hello and welcome to PortaiNerd. This is where you come to geek out on everything Portainer. Each episode will have things that are really cool that you can do with Portainer. In this episode, we're going to show you how to combine role-based access control and custom templates so that DevOps and IT Ops can work in the way that they're accustomed. So what you can see here is that I have the first screen of Portainer up. So I'm going to click Home. And in Home, I'm going to pick a cluster that I want to work on. So let me pick this x86 cluster. Now, by the way, what I should mention is right now I'm an admin. So I'm an admin of everything. You can see that in the right-hand corner over here, you see admin. And what that means is that I have the permissions to do anything. So what I want to do is set up something called a custom template. And these are great. Custom templates are things that you can set up and let other people execute. So I've already had one pre-staged here called ingress. And this is a way to kind of say what path do you want to hit or what host and path do you want to hit to get to a service that's running within Kubernetes. So right here, you can see I can actually edit or delete this. So I'm going to hit edit and show you what's inside a template. So you can set up like a name, a description, and underneath here, you can see that there's things like all of your YAML that would be within Kubernetes. Normally what you would do to install something like this is you'd say kubectl -f and then the file name, and it would sometimes be called ingress of whatever it is. So if it was like, I don't know, ghost, it would be ghost ingress. So what's cool about this too is you can see here I have these mustache type variables in here. And what that allows me to do is anytime I create one of these variables, I'm going to create another one here that is path. It's going to actually give me a new field. When I click on this, you'll see it's giving me a new field here, and I'm just going to call it path. And when I go into this now, I've actually made this restricted, and I restricted it to a specific user. I can actually restrict it to a user or a group. So I'm going to update this template. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new tab. But in this tab, I'm going to make this a private or incognito window. And what we'll do is I will bring up Portainer again. The reason why I made it incognito is so that it doesn't keep my session cookies. And I'm going to log in with GitHub because that's what I set up so that it's real easy. If you have a GitHub account, it uses OAuth. And I have a user signed up that's under Chenetz. And I'm going to click here. What you notice is I actually set up two clusters for this person to see. So I have the cluster that we're working on and I have another cluster, and I set these as a group in Kubernetes and then tagged it to Chenetz. But I'm going to click on this. And what I'm going to do is click on custom templates. And what you'll notice is I have no ability to edit this because I'm just a user. I'm actually a standard user. But I can click on this. I could give it a name, call it like, let's say we're installing Ghost blogging software. I'll call it Ghost Ingress. I could then click on the name of what this service is that I want to kind of deploy here or advertise, I should say. I'll call it Ghost Ingress again. I have two T's there, so I'll take one out. And it's asking me for a host, so I'll call it ghost.chenetz.net, which is my host. I'll give it a service name, HTTP. I'll say it's on port 80. Maybe this is called, I don't know, whatever the service of maybe it's Ghost HTTP. Let's just call it that. But this would have to match your service inside. And I'm just going to do the standard /. And what you notice is it actually filled out the YAML for me. And if I was to hit deploy, which I'm not going to do right now because I don't actually have this service up, so it's going to fail. But if I was to hit deploy, what it would do is it would actually deploy this YAML. Now, I didn't have to know anything about YAML. What's great about this is somebody in IT that wants to advertise a service doesn't have to understand DevOps. They could just go into here, fill out a few fields, and hit deploy, and they don't have to know anything about it. But somebody in DevOps could have set up that previous template, and they can have it ready to go so that you can use it over and over and over again. Let's see what this looks like in a real scenario. You can see right now I am using this admin screen here, which is running in Firefox. So this is the dashboard of an admin. I also have another dashboard running that is the dashboard of a user. So this one happens to be me, Chenetz, and they have user permissions. Now what I want to do here is I want to show you what it would look like if I were to deploy an application. So let's say an admin creates a namespace for you, and I'll just call this namespace Chenetz, just to know that it's an Chenetz namespace. I'm not going to do any resource assignments right now, and I'm going to create that namespace, and then I'm going to manage the access to it. So I will go here and I will say, here is Chenetz, and I will create the access, and you can see the access has been created there. Now when I go in and I refresh the namespace, let's just wait 1 second here, and you'll see that this namespace has Chenetz active. So let's say I want to deploy an application into my namespace. I could go in here and I could say, hey, let me add let's say Metabase. Metabase is a pretty cool application. So let me say, I'm going to install Metabase. I want to pick the namespace, and I'll use my namespace, and I'll give this a name Metabase. And then all I have to do is click install. So let me do that now. I'll click install. You can see the Helm chart successfully installed. We'll wait until this replicated equals 1 of 1. So let's just wait a few seconds to see what happens. I can actually click on Metabase, and you'll see that it's still not replicated yet, but the pod is running, so it should be up in a second. So we're just waiting for the verification that it's up right now. So let me refresh one more time. Still not up yet, but we'll wait a few more seconds. This usually doesn't take too long. That's why I like to use it. And we'll refresh one more time. Still a little bit. One of the things to note while we're waiting for this, though, is that there is a service name called Metabase. Now, you have to remember that. This is a cluster IP. Notice there's no external. So there's no way to externally get to this directly. And what I want to do is be able to do that. So let's refresh one more time. This should be up now. We can see it's replicated. 1 of 1 is up. We remember the service name is Metabase. So if I go into custom templates, well, let me actually prove something first. Let's go to Metabase, which I've actually created a DNS entry where metabase.chenetz.net will go to my ingress load balancer. So if I click there, right now it says 404 not found, which is totally expected because it's not set up at all. But let's say you knew nothing about how to set this up in Kubernetes. Well, what's nice is that maybe somebody in DevOps created this custom template for you. So you can actually go into this custom template, pick the namespace again, and say, okay, I want a Metabase ingress. And what an ingress is it matches a URL and sends it to a service. That's as simple as that. So you have to have an ingress controller set up, but I happen to have Nginx set up. And in order to set it up, you would normally need to do all this YAML on the bottom here. But what we've done is we've created a template that kind of fills in these spots that have this mustache type syntax. So all somebody that needs to set this up needs to know a name. So we can give it a generic name. I'll call it the Metabase ingress. Give it the host that you want to map to. So this is your FQDN. So I'll say metabase.chenetz.net. I'll put in the service name that it should connect to, which is Metabase. We saw that before. And the port that it was listening on, which was 80. And then what path afterwards do you want it to be allowed to go to? And I'll just put a slash, which means anything after metabase.chenetz.net, it will match. So I'll hit deploy here. And as soon as I do that, I can go back over here and hit refresh. And what you notice is that it directed it right there. Now, the cool thing about that is that I didn't need to know anything about any of that YAML. All I had to do was fill in a few fields. So this is great for people that just need to deploy things. So DevOps can set it up, IT Ops can use it, or anybody. If you're new to Kubernetes, or if you just want an easy way to deploy it, that's the way to do it. Now, one other thing you'll notice is now that I have that ingress, it has this little drop down. And you can see it automatically set up the metabase.chenetz.net. So I could have clicked there too. So all that information is right in Portainer. And you can see, one of the things that you can see is the ability for role-based access control to allow people to have the resources they need and to deploy the things they need with a little bit more security that comes out of the box. So this is great for so many reasons. But, you'll have to decide what makes sense for you. The one thing about Portainer is that there's so many ways to do the same thing. So if you're accustomed to doing something one way, you can most likely do it in Portainer. It's just that we give you options. All right, so that's it for today for PortaiNerd. Next time, we'll look at some other great functionality with inside Portainer. Thank you.